Chapter 6 Mindset. The right mindset is the right place to start with the Miles framework because it is where you can have the most immediate effect. You can change your mindset in an instant simply by looking at your circumstances and your life situation through a different lens. For example, one amazing mindset hack is gratitude. Focusing on what you're grateful for in life can make you feel happier, less stressed out, and more focused, all without having to change your external circumstances at all. This then allows you to work better and feel better about the work you've done. For example, one amazing mindset hack is gratitude. Focusing on what you're grateful for in life can make you feel happier, less stressed, and more focused, all without having to change your external circumstances at all. This then allows you to work and feel better about the work you've done, all of which shows how your mindset can affect both the quality and outcomes of your life. Another reason we start with mindset is that you can boil down the message in our book to mind over matter, but matter still matters. In other words, while some self-help books will tell you you can achieve anything if you set your mind to it, we are more reality-based and believe that the physical and biological world has its limits. You're not going to win the Nobel Peace Prize for Physics simply by believing in it strongly. But equally, if you don't believe you can do something in the first place, you're unlikely to achieve it. The unfair advantage approach can be misconstrued as being too limiting. Some might claim that our line of thinking is self-defeating. Not at all. Having a grasp of the factors of success, including the arbitrary and random ones that are circumstantial and unearned, is not a reason to feel sorry for yourself. On the surface, you can look at the premise we've laid out here and assume that because you don't have money, status, or an education, you won't be able to gain any leverage in the future. Nothing could be further from the truth. Growth mindset versus fixed mindset. According to Dr. Carol Dweck, professor of psychology at Stanford University, people with a fixed mindset believe they are born naturally gifted at doing something, but incapable of others. This black and white thinking often obstructs their development. Failure is a disaster to a person with fixed mindset. When it happens, they will bury their heads in the sand or blame others. The opposite of this fixed mindset is a growth mindset. This is when a person believes that all of life is fluid. Yes, you could be bad at something, but it is only because you have not taken the time or attention to get better at it. The growth mindset is perfectly encapsulated in one word: yet. I can't write code yet. I can't write a business plan yet. I can't find a co-founder yet. This three-letter word opens up a whole realm of possibilities. While the growth mindset is by far the better option of the two presented, it still isn't quite the mindset you need to embrace for success. After all, you can't really say, I am not a trillionaire yet. I'm not a professional football player yet. I'm not the first person to travel to Mars yet. Realistically, you simply won't be any of those things. The flaw of the growth mindset idea is that it often ignores the stacks of unfair advantages and luck that some people already have in life. The first trillionaire is likely to be a tech company giant who is already a billionaire. We'd predict Amazon's Jeff Bezos. The people who will succeed as professional footballers are probably less than 18 years old and have been training to be professional footballers since they were young children. And the first person to travel to Mars is training to be an astronaut right now, or is likely a billionaire again. Our money would be on Elon Musk. We make the most misleading assumptions by looking at outliers and believing that the only reason we hadn't achieved the same is because we simply weren't driven, self-disciplined, and hardworking enough. When reviewing the success of a Mark Zuckerberg, an Oprah Winfrey, an Evan Spiegel, or a Sarah Blakely, the billionaire U.S. underwear magnate, we sometimes overlook the unfair advantages in their success which they have no control over. The ability to think the sky is the limit is an excellent tool in your mental toolbox. However, there does need to be an element of realism in your thinking, though not one that overly limits you. You need to find the right balance. If you only think the sky is the limit, then your head will be full of crazy daydreams. But when you look around at your life and see the huge disparity between your dreams and your current situation, you may experience guilt, disappointment, and stress. You'll blame yourself, or you might become bitter and blame everyone else. All this can be avoided by defining success for yourself in a way that's process-oriented, and which focuses on taking action and on enjoying the journey of life. This focus should take into account inner fulfillment, not just quantifiable financial success, which will be 100% in your control. Rather than ignore both schools of thought, we like to offer a third way of thinking. We call it a reality growth mindset. A reality growth mindset is the ability to accept the hard limits of the way things are, like the physical laws of the universe, and also to believe that anything is possible, the metaphysical way of looking at the universe. It acknowledges that there are some limitations, but that those limitations are more malleable than some people may think. You have to have these two opposing viewpoints in your mind without feeling the need to fully reconcile them, and then deploy the right perspective when needed. Again, think of them as mental tools in your toolbox. Sometimes you need to believe that anything is possible to get you inspired and motivated to take action. And sometimes the universe surprises you by giving you more than you even imagined. Other times it's good to know that you're probably not going to be an extreme outlier and to enjoy the simpler things in life, because it's true that the best things in life are free. Reality growth mindset is a balance between self-awareness and self-belief. Self-awareness says, I understand I will probably never win a Nobel Prize, or cure cancer, or become president or prime minister, or become the world's richest person. Self-belief says, I'm going to succeed in my own way, and even if my goals feel like a stretch, I can step up to the challenge, and probably have a lot more impact than I can even imagine. Reality growth mindset is about having your feet rooted on the ground, with your head in the clouds. Not just your head in the clouds, believing anything is possible, and not just your feet on the ground thinking, I can never be above average and ordinary. You need both. It is always about setting achievable goals rather than looking at outliers and anomalies. You want to be on the cover of Forbes or Time magazine? Okay, but how about starting with the goal of creating a company that makes profit, or an organization that has real impact? One thing at a time. Then maybe one day that magazine cover will seem like a reasonable goal. But remember, we don't need to be on the cover of Forbes, Vanity Fair, or Time. We don't need to be famous to be happy, fulfilled, and successful. In fact, it might be more of a hindrance than a help. This is the power in wanting something badly enough. Hassan loves to use the analogy of Harry Potter and the Sorting Hat. If you are nerdy enough to know or remember, in the magical world that J.K. Rowling created, the Sorting Hat is a talking hat, which, when you put it on, analyzes your personality and strengths and assigns you to one of the houses of Hogwarts. When Harry puts it on, the Sorting Hat considers putting him in Slytherin, the most ambitious and cunning house, and most linked to dark magic and evil. But because Harry so badly doesn't want to be in Slytherin, the hat gives in and puts him in Gryffindor. His dream sorting. This is a great way of saying that if you want something badly enough, it has power to change you. This power has a limit, though, and that's where reality comes into a reality growth mindset. For example, Larry Page and Sergey Brin just so happened to be attending grad school together at Stanford in the mid-1990s when the internet was still in its infancy. During this time, they conceived of and created the prototype for Google, with the help of mentors at the university who encouraged and guided them. But the internet is no longer in its infancy, and if you've never had access to the grades or the money to get into Stanford, you won't have the same access to a brilliant, skilled, and like-minded co-founder. The two had an insight and applied their inspired expertise in a very new industry and simply executed well. They had a technological unfair advantage based on their expertise, which simply created a better product. It would be impossible for you to create Google in the same way today. Even if you did want to build a competing search engine, you would need some kind of unique insight or technological unfair advantage. This is a truth. It doesn't mean success is out of reach for you. It means you will have to take a different path and leverage your own unique set of unfair advantages. Unfair advantages exist. Talent exists. Luck exists. Sexism, ageism, nepotism, prejudice, social connections, inherited money, better education. These are all irrefutable truths. By and large, you are born into an extravaganza of fixed variables that you do not control. You must accept this. At the same time, you also must believe you are the master of your own future. You can take responsibility for the outcomes in your life. You can achieve virtually anything you set your mind to, as long as what you set your mind to is within the realms of possibility for you, based on your strengths and assets, your unfair advantages. This precise duality of thinking is necessary. Lean too far towards the unfairness of life, and you become a victim. Lean too far into the fully in control master and architect of your future side, and you become disillusioned when your millionaire status doesn't appear after a couple of years of hustle. Many entrepreneurs didn't have any kind of huge vision when they set up their company. In fact, often it was just a side project they were working on. Google and Facebook weren't set up as a bid to achieve world domination, but they just grew and grew as their founders realized how good their solution and timing was. Some entrepreneurs do have that huge vision, of course. Jeff Bezos had it in his mind from the beginning to dominate retail, contrary to the myth that he just wanted to do an online bookshop. Oprah always knew she would achieve something huge for herself, and Sarah Blakely wrote down that she'd change the world. Ash didn't think he'd be a .com millionaire when he first set up the shoe e-commerce website and started making money. He just enjoyed the ride of making money on the internet. Hassan had to be convinced by the marketing and sales of an online business course to take the plunge, and he only wanted to make passive income and give himself the freedom to not have a boss. There isn't a single path to financial freedom and living the life and impact you want. Reality growth mindset is the fertile soil from which your unfair advantages spring. Trade it properly and you will see a wealth of opportunity pop up all around you. Even though nothing will have changed about your situation, the mindset will show you a whole new world. Without the right mindset, you can't get very far. After all, there are rich kids with tons of unfair advantages who amounted to nothing. All the world lay at their feet, yet they never took action. Perhaps an even better example in today's world is the huge numbers of people who have paid huge amounts of money for an education they are not using. Still others have status, but may not be leveraging it. Yes, we start from what we have and what we are born into, but we also start from how we see the world and what we are driven to do in it. And we can change these things in our favor at any time. 4 characteristics of a strong reality growth mindset. 1. Vision. This is the first irrefutable characteristics of all strong mindsets. You may have heard the expression, without vision, people perish. Also, without vision, companies lose their way, people lose their jobs, and executives lose their minds. In a 2017 Forbes review of existing data around characteristics of entrepreneurs, vision rose above 23 others in a list of useful personality traits. Vision appears to be a more universal, essential trait than any other. Vision is the ability to see plainly what will exist. It's not magic, it's imagination and goal setting. While Larry and Sergey and Mark Zuckerberg didn't have a huge vision at the beginning, they developed it as they went along and saw the potential. Vision doesn't need to be enormous. Huda Kattan, whose story is coming up later, just wanted to do makeup. That's often all you need to get started. Also, it may be all you need in general. The founders of Basecamp, the project management app, are all about having a great work-life balance, and they rightly teach that you don't need world domination to have a great life of success and happiness as an entrepreneur. People will follow a leader with vision, even if that vision turns out, in the end, to be a poor one. The person with a vision serves as a prophet, voicing the unknown and bringing it into reality. If you are not able to imagine the future with your organization, there is really little reason to continue moving forward. One setback and you're done. When you have a vision, you can see the future you wish to create. Oprah Winfrey commented on a vision she experienced at just 4 years of age, where she dreamed of a different life. I remember standing on the back porch, watching my grandmother boiling clothes and poking them down. I was 4 years old, and I remember thinking, my life won't be like this. It will be better. It wasn't from a place of arrogance. It was just from a place of knowing that things could be different for me somehow. Oprah didn't just dream about a different circumstance for herself. She saw it, and then she lived it. When Ash first joined Just Eat, he would spend hours talking with the management team about how big the company could get. They would sit down for lunch and say things like, I think this can be a 50 million pound company, and here's why. The next time, the value would increase to 100 million, and then 150 million pounds. In the early days, the vision got bigger and bigger as they saw more and more potential. Even Ash and the senior team did not imagine the real gargantuan figure of the IPO, but vision allowed him and his colleagues to dream in that direction. 2. Resourcefulness. An entrepreneur is someone who will jump off a cliff and assemble an airplane on the way down. This is a great quote by Reid Hoffman, which perfectly describes the resourcefulness and ability to solve problems quickly that an entrepreneur needs. Ash has successfully exited a few startups and has started several others which never got off the ground. You may wonder why this is the case. Should there be a better way to plan for these things? In a word, no. Certainly an experienced entrepreneur, investor, founder, or early startup employee can take steps to mitigate risk, but the danger can never be truly eliminated. One reason for this is that when you answer the call of entrepreneurship, you probably intend to step into an area where nobody has been before. You will break things. When things break, you will probably see your business in a whole new way. It's all about having faith in your ability to come up with solutions. 3. Constant growth and lifelong learning. Lifelong learning is probably needed more now than at any other point in history. Perhaps, in years past, you could get a degree and it would serve you for life. This is no longer the case. The progress curve of technology keeps getting steeper, and acceleration is the result. Entire industries are being upended by startups. We will soon have 5G technology, stronger artificial intelligence, and self-driving cars. Even as we write this, business models are changing and new tools and platforms are being created. Now some of the biggest and best companies in the world, including Apple, Google, Costco, Whole Foods, and Hilton Hotels, have removed university degrees as requirements for a job. From this point on, the future belongs to the person who will commit to a life of constant growth through continuous learning, not just a traditional university degree. 4. Grit and perseverance. Each of the case studies we've looked at so far in this book have required a level of grit. In other words, that person kept going in the face of resistance. Rejections, pitfalls, and obstacles will constantly get in your way. Without perseverance, your startup won't make it out alive. You need thick skin. You need to be able to handle criticism, both the constructive and destructive types of criticism. You have to be able to bounce back even when you're down. Even when you fail, you have to be able to take responsibility, because when you're a founder, there's no one that you can blame. It's tough. Only grit, doggedness, and a very healthy dose of optimism can see you through. So bear in mind how essential having the right mindset is as we dive into the core of the Miles framework, starting with money.